Hi, this is Nanette Hosenfeld with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Sunday, July 11th, 2021. Looking at fire potential impacts over the next few days, there's quite a bit going on. We will see abnormally high temperatures moving into next week. Across the northern part of the Great Basin, if smoke stays as thick as it is, that will bring temperatures down a couple of degrees, but still looking at unusually high temperatures into next week. We're also going to see periods of gusty winds. Now you can see those areas that will experience those gusty winds highlighted in orange on the map. And then we're also looking at a return of moisture to the southern part of the Great Basin. We will see isolated dry thunderstorms across the far southern part of the Great Basin, as well as the central Idaho mountains today. As we move into Monday, that area of dry thunderstorms becomes more widespread across the south, and then moving into Tuesday, as that moisture continues to deepen across the south, those storms will transition to a mix of wet and dry storms with drier thunderstorms on the northern periphery. Over the past 24 hours, there's really not much in the way of precipitation. We did have some lightning strikes across the Arizona Strip and portions of central and western Nevada. These storms were mostly dry, as you can see from that precipitation map on the left. We continue to see new fires across the Great Basin. I have some larger ongoing fires as well. Taking a look at precipitation over the past 1 and 2 weeks, you can see the past week across the Great Basin has been quite dry, really not much precipitation to speak of across the south. We did have some isolated storms that brought more wetting rain to portions of the central Idaho mountains and southwestern Idaho, far southwestern Idaho, but overall abnormally dry across the Great Basin over the past 7 days. Looking back at the past 14 days, you can see that some areas did receive a good amount of precipitation from some wetter storms, but that's pretty spotty. ERCs are still at record levels across much of the Great Basin. The southern part of the area that did see cooler weather, higher relative humidities, and some precipitation a couple of weeks ago has rebounded from that monsoonal surge and is back up in record territory. With the record heat we've seen over the past month or so, the central and northern parts of the Great Basin have really seen the ERCs rise quite dramatically, with many areas near record values across the northern part of the Great Basin as well. Looking at those ERC trend lines, you can see GB33, which is in southwestern Utah, did see a dip towards the end of June. Early part of July, but with the recent hot and dry weather, those ERCs have rebounded pretty rapidly and are almost at record high levels. GB10, which is western Wyoming, was below record levels until about a couple of weeks ago, and with the hot weather we've seen recently, GB10 is seeing record high ERCs right now. Satellite this morning shows high pressure centered over the Great Basin. There is some moisture trapped underneath that ridge, and that will lead to thunderstorms across the southern part of the Great Basin, as well as we will see some isolated storms across the central Idaho mountains today as well. Taking a look at the current conditions as far as smoke and air quality, the colored dots on the map show the current air quality conditions, so you can see that's ranging from moderate to unhealthy across portions of the Great Basin, with smoke drifting into the area from fires to the west of us. Taking a look at that smoke forecast for today into tomorrow, you can see that much of the northern half, central part of the Great Basin will be impacted by that smoke. Moving into tomorrow morning, we are expecting to see some improvement across central and southern Nevada, but still looking at those smoke impacts across northern Nevada into southern Idaho and much of Utah. As far as surface visibility, really related to that smoke, this afternoon we could see some areas with some pretty low surface visibilities, particularly across western Nevada. Into northern Utah and portions of southern Idaho could see some areas with visibility down around 10 statute miles. As we move into Monday, continuing to see those visibility forecasts, looking at some lower visibilities possible across northern Nevada, as well as into the central Idaho mountains on Monday morning. So for today, looking at the upper level pattern, we do have that moisture trapped underneath the ridge this afternoon. That will lead to some very isolated dry thunderstorms this afternoon. We're also looking at the potential for some gusty winds this afternoon, and you can see the high risk that has been issued for those winds across portions of southern Idaho. Looking at that in more detail, again, you can see those gusty winds that are expected this afternoon, mainly in that 25 to 35 mile an hour range. Then as far as the lightning forecast, just looking at some really isolated storms across portions of western Nevada and into the central Idaho mountains. So we move into Monday, looking at that moisture remaining in place across the south. We'll continue to see the potential for lightning, and we do have a high risk out for lightning across far southern Nevada and the Arizona Strip. Also a high risk out for wind tomorrow, as there is a potential for some gusty winds across western Nevada. Looking at that in more detail, you can see those areas of gusty winds expected across northern and central Nevada tomorrow, and then the more widespread lightning expected across the southern part of the Great Basin. So we move into Tuesday, still looking at that moisture transitioning northward. The storms across the southern part of the Great Basin, far southern part of the Great Basin, will trend a little wetter, with that dry lightning potential shifting a little further north. Also looking at the potential for some gusty winds across the area tomorrow, which we have a high risk out for. If we take a look at Tuesday's forecast in more detail, again, you can see those areas that will see the winds in the 25 to 35 mile an hour range. Much more widespread lightning on Tuesday. Again, the storms across the south will trend wetter. Looking at the max temperature forecast through Tuesday, you can see just really exceptional heat across the Great Basin over the next 3 days. Large portions of the area reaching temperatures well above 100 degrees. So again, exceptionally hot. Things do look to cool down a bit moving into Tuesday. And the caveat here is that smoke across the northern and central part of the Great Basin is expected to bring temperatures down a little bit. Looking at precipitation over the next 3 days, we are looking at moisture moving back into the south. That will bring the potential for some wetter storms across far southern Utah and the Arizona Strip. Then as we move into Wednesday, again, keeping that moisture in place under the ridge, looking at that greatest threat for dry lightning across portions of central southeastern Utah and far eastern Nevada. Then as we move into Thursday, looking at some drier air moving into the western part of the Great Basin, holding on to that moisture that will bring the lightning threat into Thursday across northern and northeastern Utah. Still looking at storms further south into the Great Basin on Thursday, but those will be trending wetter. Then as we move into Friday, looking at those PSAs across eastern Utah and the Arizona Strip transitioning to yellow. Just looking at higher humidities and the potential for the wetter storms. We are looking at the potential for an upper level low pressure system to move into the Pacific Northwest on Friday. And if this does occur, we'd expect gusty winds to develop on Friday across portions of the western and northern Great Basin. Then finally, looking at Saturday, still looking at drier conditions moving in following a period of lightning. This pattern would bring some drier and windier weather to the area, which would be a concern after a period of lightning, so definitely keeping our eye on that. Looking at the 7-day precipitation total, it does look like the brief return of monsoonal moisture we're looking at will bring wetting rain to much of Utah and portions of eastern Nevada, so that's good news there. I'm also looking at the potential for higher relative humidity with that monsoonal moisture return, so that is good news for those really dry portions of the central and southern part of the Great Basin. Finally, 8 to 14 day outlook. The Climate Prediction Center is calling for a prolonged period of above normal temperatures. So really no relief there as far as temperatures going towards the end of July. But it does look like we will hold on to the moisture across the south. So we could look at some more monsoonal moisture surges across the southern part of the Great Basin towards the end of the month. That's it. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. Our information is on the screen, and you can also find us on Twitter. Thanks.